I just start? Oh, no. Tom, I want to dance. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our new fine-tuned Remedy. Happy 2023.
Yeah.
And welcome to the next episode of The Remedy with Tova, Sido and
Janice, Gaunt, and
Tom Bridwell.
Tom Bridwell.
Welcome, Tom. We're so happy to have you working with us.
Yes. So we all, listeners and fans of The Remedy with Tova and Janice, we have a brand new producer of our show. His name is Tom Bridwell. Our dear friend and previous colleague, Kevin, as you all know, he had a baby, and the baby is doing great. But I think that time is of the essence for Kev. And so, did he just not have time for us anymore, Janice?
He's a little bit busy, if you can only remember or imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we are excited because somehow we found someone equally as fabulous as Kevin named Tom Bridwell. Tom, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a 47-year-old stay-at-home dad. I've got a studio in my back house.
You do not. This studio does not look like you're a stay-at-home dad.
No, and the studio is like rocker.
It's beautiful.
Great guitars. Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I've been at it for almost 25 years, and so I decided I might want to have a kid, and that's what my wife and I decided to do.
Great.
So, I'm glad to be with you guys.
Seem to be killing it.
Thank you very much.
I actually met Tom, it was a couple of Christmases ago. One of my good friends, Mary Catherine, who Janice knows, she came and recorded a song for her boyfriend at the time. Now it's her husband. And so I met Tom, and we were doing our podcast. So Tom and I had a little bonding over podcasts, because you've been producing lots of different things for, like you said, 25 years.
This is my 5th podcast, but I've only been doing the podcast thing basically, I would say, post-COVID. But mostly I produce music.
And so we are also going to be having a YouTube channel.
Yeah, tell us how that's going to work, Tom, because we know what we want. We just don't know how to do what we want. So tell us about our new YouTube channel.
Well, it's going to be up probably by tomorrow, and it's going to basically feature this episode, which is 221 and in perpetuity, and it will basically be a video feed of the same podcast you've been doing, and it should be a little more immersive, I guess.
Well, yeah, a lot of people want to see us for some reason.
I hear you.
I don't know. I have one question. Do I have on lipstick?
Yeah.
It's a big thing that matters.
I totally put new lip gloss on as I was getting out of the car. Do you have your lipstick on, Tom?
No, but my bucket hat will have to do.
The bucket hat's adorable.
The bucket hat is the bomb. I like it a
Appreciate
lot.
it.
Really, really cute. Okay, so just like our sweet Kevin used to do, Tom, feel free to pipe in, ask questions, give opinions. We love our producer being a part of it. So, and Janice and I think we know everything, but sometimes we don't. So another person's perspective was always appreciated. So I love our topic for today. I listened to a podcast where they actually discussed this. I love podcasts, clearly, but it's like a free education.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, people tell us all the time it's like free therapy, and I'm like, no shit. I paid Janice like a boatload to get what y'all are getting for free.
Yes, and I want to say thank you, Tova.
Yeah, for all the shoes I bought you. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
But it is, listening to podcasts is a great opportunity for learning, growth, and education. So one of the things that I listened to last week or a couple weeks ago when I was driving, back from the lake was an episode on childhood needs. And, you know, you and I are both big on family of origin, doing your family of origin work, figuring out your past so that you can have a better future.
Yes.
And the woman that spoke talked about how all children have 4 necessary S's: a need for security, a need to be seen, a need to feel safe, and a need to be soothed. And it was her philosophy that when children are not seen, feel secure, feel safe, or feel soothed, that they that it's traumatizing,
Right.
to them,
Right.
and that trauma, as we've talked about, you know, then resides and lives within our bodies until we do the work to get it out. And if we don't resolve the fact that our parents were just humans,
Right.
and they were not always perfect at helping us feel seen, secure, safe, or soothed, that oftentimes as we grow into adulthood, when we didn't experience those things, or we experienced those things to varying degrees as children, we begin to act out
Right. Right. Well,
into our adulthood.
Yeah, those traumatic experiences, especially if they are continuous, then what happens is, because that is stored in our body, then it will act out. It will almost, it's like the inside comes to the outside through our behavior, our thinking. Shame is a huge component of
yes, it
that.
is.
And so then people struggle with this in their adult life, or maybe medicate it with food or alcohol or sex or things like that. And if that happens, then as an adult, we have to uproot that. It's like a weed, and we don't chop it off. We pull it up and we shake it, and we look at the root system of that and understand what that is and how it is running our lives sometimes. And then once you recognize it and realize that what's been missing, then we can give it back to ourselves with some family of origin work. And it makes a difference, and those things can go away. Like panic disorders, a lot of time has to do with that.
Yeah, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't sometimes even know the home, like how these feelings or how those things built a home inside of us, but they reside until we do something about it.
Well, and then what happens is, because I think that I like that analogy of building a home where those experiences reside. And so once we recognize it, then we think, oh, well, no wonder I have that fear of flying. My mother was panicked about getting on an airplane, and so as a child that watches that, then they internalize some of those things, and then that becomes an adult issue. And once you recognize that, and you do some things as far as going back, and I have people pull pictures of themselves and do like a little visualization of rescuing that child, let's say on the airplane, and then those things actually go away. So it is nice to, especially if you have children in your home right now, or even grandchildren, with these 4 S's, we can make sure that we're focusing on strengthening those S's in our children and grandchildren.
When you were growing up, Janice, how do you feel like you felt it with these 4 S's? How do you feel like your parents were with soothing and helping you feel seen, or helping you feel secure or safe? What were they? Where did you feel seen? Where did you not feel seen? Like, what were some of the things that your parents did really well, and where did you feel like they came up a little short?
Well, I feel like that.
Not that we're here blaming them.
No, it's an understanding of them.
That's
when I
great
wrote my
word.
book, The Shame Game, I talked a lot about that, and it was interesting because when my mom, who has now transitioned, but when she read it the first time, she said, "Well, I think it's well written, but I just don't think we did that." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding?"
I've spent thousands of dollars in therapy because you actually did.
Yeah, and so then probably, I don't know, a month later, she called me and she said, "Oh my goodness, I just read your book again, and I totally know what I didn't do." And I mean, I broke into tears, and she was like, "I am so sorry. I just didn't know." And I said, "No, I know you didn't." But it was so amazing for her to actually own it and then be able to verbalize that to me. Helped all of some of those things go away, so I was
That's
raised
powerful.
Yeah, it was very powerful. I had my family was very active in a very strict religious church, a Baptist church in a small West Texas town, even before Lubbock, because we were in Brownfield for a while and then moved to Lubbock. And so we went to like Sunday school, church, training union, choir practice, night church. If there was a revival, we were there every night for that. And it was because of the belief of the minister there was a lot of screaming and about burning in hell and all of that. And so,
Scary.
Oh, it was so scary. I mean, I think I've said this on the podcast before. I went at the end of the service, they had an altar calls where people could come in.
I would
and
have gone
profess.
to every altar every time.
Well, I think I went like 8 times just to make sure that I was covered, And so as far as safety for eternity was something that was really not nurtured. And again, once my mother and father and I talked about it, they were able, they all agreed. They said, "I'm so sorry," but they were doing the best that they possibly could. And so that was difficult. I also had a little bit of trouble at times being seen because my father worked very hard. He owned a newspaper in Brownfield, and he was in charge of it. And it was in a little town. If you own the newspaper, everybody and their dog has an opinion and wants to call you.
Yep.
And so what I learned to do was perform in order to be seen. And I started taking tap dancing lessons when I was 5. And then when I was 8, I sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic in front of the whole school.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was mortified because I had to say, "In the glory of his bosom." I had to say bosom. In front of the school. But what I learned from a lot of that was, and making really good grades and that sort of thing, is that I had to perform in order to feel like I had been seen. And so as an adult, I really have gotten rid of that too. But it's interesting because you don't know until you know.
That's right.
And if there's some sort of dysfunction in your life, the chances are emotionally that there is a root to some of that. So that's why these sort of topics are important.
Absolutely. I was meeting with a young man today, and he and his girlfriend just broke up, and he's having a hard time with that. They've been dating for a really long time, and he talked about how he sometimes he feels like, well, maybe this was actually for the best. And I asked him why, like, when you think that, what do you think? He said, because I don't know that our relationship, I don't know that she ever really saw me and she ever really heard me. We didn't really connect emotionally. She lives very surface, and he likes to kind of go deep.
Interesting. That's kind of a flip for men and women.
Yes, for sure. And I said, so you desire deep emotional connection, and she just struggled with that. And every time he tried to connect with her emotionally, she would kind of brush it off, or, "Oh, let's do that later. It's a beautiful day. Let's talk about that later." But she never really wanted to do that. And I said, so which one of your parents did that?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. And he was like, huh. And he's like, well, I guess my dad. And I'm like, tell me about that. And this precious man just cried and cried and cried, talking about how his dad was never available to him, never emotionally available to him. He was never seen by his dad. And that was a very emotional thing for him. And then he was embarrassed because he would get emotional about it because his dad wanted him to man up. You know, his dad didn't want him to be sad about not being seen. And so now he's a wuss on top of, you know, and I'm like, wow, do you see the correlation? It's like, it's so interesting to me. And I've only learned it in doing the work with you, how so much of our adult life, so many of us, for so much of our adult life, we're trying to reconcile the little boy or the little girl inside of us and fix that part of us in our adult relationships or our adult coping mechanisms. We're trying to fix that part of us that wasn't seen, that didn't feel safe, that wasn't secure, or it wasn't soothed.
Well, and you know, Tova, what's interesting about that is that for men in particular, because they have so much pressure to man up and be tough and that they may be seen on the outside, but they're not seen on the inside. Because being able to be vulnerable and to cry and to be scared and to talk about it has been something that men, for the most part, it's getting better for sure, but haven't been, that even if they were seen on the outside for being a great football player or basketball player or a great student, the inside was morphed because they hadn't been able to express it. And that's so when we are nurturing our children and we're wanting them to know that we see them, that's a really good way to do it, to say, you know, it looks to me like you're really sad. Are you sad? Even if it's, I think of Owen, my 13-year-old grandson, you know, I mean, he's not going to be standing around talking with his friends about being sad. But if he is sad at some point, which he is, I'm sure, for it to be recognized and acknowledged by the parent, then it gives him permission to recognize it in himself. And then even if his buddies don't see it,
somebody does.
Somebody does. So then that gives him permission to see it and to feel it.
That's good.
And that makes a difference.
I think it's such a good point, because if we don't give our children permission to be seen or to see themselves, it's like they don't even know how they feel.
No, they
can't
don't.
even access that part of them that has an emotion. You get to the point where you're like, you become numb.
Right. And then you don't know how to soothe it. You know, if you want to be able to self-soothe, which is a really great skill for an adult to have.
Sure is.
So that we're not going to each other or we can learn to self-soothe really effectively as soon as we recognize what we're feeling. It's seen.
Absolutely. You know, that was a concept, Janice, that you taught me. I didn't even see in myself that I had no idea how to self-soothe. When I was younger and I was going through a difficult time, or I mean, even just life, just going through life, the only thing I did was stay busy. I was busy. And it was interesting because when I worked at the church, these two guys that worked for me, Stephen and Phil, who I just deeply love, like family, we worked together for 10 years, and they sat me down and they were like, you're annoying. You're actually really annoying to work for. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you run from one thing to the next. You never have any margin. There's no space. You half listen. You overplan. You underdeliver. You're always late. I was like, I mean, they had like this come to Jesus. And if I didn't love them so much, I would have fired them. But I trusted what they were telling me. You know, I trusted, and I hid behind busyness.
Yeah.
I did not want to feel. I didn't know how to feel. I did not know how to self-soothe. I did have feelings.
Yeah.
And I did have stuff going on, but instead of seeing it or dealing with it or processing it or soothing myself of it, I just ignored it through busyness.
And you know, Tova, what's interesting about that is that when you do that, then we have no ability to feel safe in the world, because if I'm not safe in myself and are aware of it and can self-soothe, then I'm not going to trust the world, because I'm going to portray that into the world.
Yeah.
And
that's so interesting.
And that's where that safety comes from, because when you think about the word safe, you know, I mean, I think about, you know, when you're driving your car, or if you have, you know, a shooting somewhere that we've all been exposed to lately in the world. And so that if I have never dealt with any of those childhood feelings, then I'm not going to feel safe. I mean, you're going to want to hide in the closet because you don't know what's going on the inside.
That is so fascinating.
Because
and so true.
Once we learn those things, then we can trust ourselves to make decisions that will help us to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally trust myself now.
Me too.
With the ability to do that. But I had to do the work. I had to, and now I can be alone. I don't overextend. I don't plan anything. I love quiet. I love peace. I resist chaos. But that's a really different person than 8-10 years ago. And so, Tom, are you up there?
Yes.
You being a manly man, which you are. You're a very tall, big, manly man. How does this land with you when you think about? I mean, we're talking about how difficult it can be, especially for men, to access that emotional, vulnerable, you know, sometimes those words make guys itchy. So when you're up there listening to us talk about feelings and emotions and vulnerability, where does your plane land?
You know, it's funny. I have kind of being a stay-at-home dad, the roles are a little reversed in our family. So,
which I think is cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really lucky to be able to be in this position. And then that gives me a unique perspective on this, but also my mother passed away when I was 5.
Oh.
And so I've kind of, I guess maybe that definitely affected my intimacy. I've been told hundreds of times. But I'm definitely, as I've gotten older, you know, man, age is a really good, is a cure-all. Wisdom, I guess.
It is.
But it doesn't make me queasy at all to talk about emotions. Although, about the only time you'll ever see me cry is like a good sports moment.
Not at your daughter's ballerina?
No. I'm much more concerned. That's where stage dad takes over, and I'm like really concerned about getting it right.
Oh, that's so funny.
Well, you know, Tom, what's great about all of this for you with that awareness, one of the gifts, which I believe even if somebody transitions, then there are gifts around it, that because you did not have that female influence and now you have the privilege of being home with your 7-year-old daughter, you are going to be able to model for her what that is going to look like in a man. And that is something that she wouldn't get anywhere else, probably.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be really terrific for her. She'll grow up feeling like she can be seen if her dad is being seen.
Yeah.
Well, I like hearing that.
Yeah, I think it'll be amazing for her.
Oh, I mean, and it's just proven that, I mean, it's not fair. I know a fair place to take your kids, but it's not very fair. But the dad's behavior and actions have way more influence on children than moms.
Well, the absence of certain things in particular,
Yeah, for sure. But like if a dad, moms of course are going to be at the game. But if
Right.
the dad comes to the game, dad's here. I mean,
Yeah.
I see that across the board. Or if mom wants to go to church, of course mom wants to go to church. Well, except you.
Except me.
You just like curled your lip up. Ew.
Something that you said, Janice, earlier. My parents were pretty strict with religion as well.
Oh, they were?
I basically I went to Sunday school and church every Sunday in Abilene, Texas, until I was 18. Even on some days when I was like, even with a cough or something. It was
Oh yeah.
What were you a particular denomination?
Methodist.
Oh.
Yes. And it was a very traditional church. It wasn't like snake charming or anything like that, but it was very buttoned up, lots of hymns and stuff. And it was small town Texas, so you can imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, and you had Abilene Christian College there,
Yes,
right?
ACU.
Yeah,
I
my
believe they're
dad
Church
was
of
on the
Christ.
board there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that was Church of Christ, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. I
And
played
they
in a
might
band
have
with,
snakes there.
I played in a band with two kids from ACU, and those guys were like the wildest guys I know.
Of course.
And so it was all that repressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of a wild monkey.
But
too.
it caused me, my upbringing with religion definitely caused me to rebuke that when I went to college. I went to Lawrence, Kansas, University of Kansas.
Oh, right on.
And
My
so-
husband went to KU, and my
amazing.
daughter.
Well, my wife went there too, and we were there for 3 years and didn't meet each other until Dallas 2011.
Seriously?
Yeah, we
Oh
met
my!
14
How old
years
is your
after.
wife?
She's 46, 1 year younger than me.
Oh,
But so yes, I have a definitely sort of reticent. I guess I have a spiritual belief, but I'm not like a churchy person.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people.
that's an adaptation
Yeah.
because of that. So then now, because you've adapted to that mode, then now religion will feel safer to you, or spirituality, not religion, but that spiritual self will feel better.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here, y'all. I wish all the listeners
Yeah.
could see.
Well, the ones
but-
who see us on YouTube see a little bit of it. It's
but
a cool
it's
studio.
very cool. There's keyboards and there's guitars hanging on the wall, and that in itself, because you do put music together, is going to give you an added sensitivity with your little girl. What's her name?
Her name is Betty,
Oh, Betty. I love that.
and she takes piano lessons there on that piano that's right by you guys every Sunday.
Oh, that's so great.
That's really cute.
She loves it.
I sang in a band when I was in high school. I want to come play here with Betty. I'll babysit Betty.
Just put her in with the rest of your grandkids. She'll fit right in.
She would fit right in.
Tom,
Yeah.
Janice has nine
Holy cow.
grandchildren.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's got a full house. She has 3 girls and 9 grandchildren.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
I know. They're amazing.
I have 3. I'm the oldest of 4, so I have 3 younger siblings, and between the oldest 3, we have 5 grandkids from my parents.
So where do your siblings live?
Okay, so my full-blooded sister Jordan lives in Colorado Springs, and then my half siblings Beth lives in Dallas, and Charles lives in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Right on.
well, those are some fun places to visit.
Absolutely. And then my parents, they still live in Abilene, but they have a place here because 4 of the 5 grandkids are here.
Well, they're smart.
They are smart. Just eat them up with a spoon.
Absolutely.
I have your brother's name is Charles. I have a son named Charles. I called him Charlie. But he passed away a long time ago, Tom. But I just have to say today is his 20th birthday.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, can you feel him?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's so
I
precious.
know. I woke up with. You know what I did? I worked out really hard today for
Yeah.
Charlie. I was like, I just got all his energy, and he died of a metabolic disease when he was a baby, Tom, and he was only 8 months old, but he was just so beautiful and strong, and And so I feel very inspired by him today.
I know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And one of my devotionals today was all about how we have angels.
Oh.
Yeah, and how God gives us people who've transitioned on to watch over us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know you and I both believe
I
that.
believe it. Yeah.
Do you have many memories of your mom, Tom?
Yes, I do.
I'm so glad.
Well, many. I would say probably 5 or 6, but they're vivid. Swimming lessons. I got a really, really bad spanking one time for shooting a BB gun with an older kid in the neighborhood, and that was when I was like 4. And then my 4th birthday, I remember, was at Crystal's Pizza in Abilene, Texas. So,
Crystal's Pizza.
Yeah, you remember Crystal's?
Yeah,
No, but I'm
do.
glad you do.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that West Texas, those West Texas spankings were booger bears. I'm not
yeah.
a fan of them.
For sure. No, I mean, spankings are necessary, I feel like, even in today's world, but that's probably another show.
Yeah.
But I do have vivid memories. And then, of course, this is kind of crazy, but my parents were out of town when my mom died. They were on vacation in Colorado Springs. And I was actually on the phone with my mom when she had her heart attack. I don't really remember what we were talking about, but I do remember being on the phone and then my dad grabbing the phone and saying, I need to talk to the babysitter right now. And then I handed the phone over. And then like 4 days later, my dad came home from this vacation and gave me this news. Like it was a really weird memory, but I definitely remember it.
Of course you do.
Wow.
I didn't know what was happening for that 4 days, from the moment that she
yeah.
got off the phone until my dad got home.
Were
But
you scared? Were you nervous?
not at all. He did a
Okay.
very good job of not making me aware of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was 5, so, I don't really know if I even would have picked up on it.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
yeah.
How old was your mom?
She was 29.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, she had this really rare heart disease called mitral valve prolapse. And she had a heart attack. It was a combination of altitude, and she had been smoking cigarettes.
We would have liked her.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was just it gave me a definitely, I guess I have grown up a different person, obviously, than I would have. But looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything, truthfully.
That's an interesting thing
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
I think.
What makes you say that, Tom?
Well, I guess just the adversity of having a stepmother. My stepmother came on the scene when I was 7. And
So 2 years later, your
yes,
dad remarried?
Yes. And she is still with my dad, and she's still my stepmom, and she's amazing. And when Betty
I'm so
was
glad
born.
you said that. I was so scared
Well,
that she wasn't.
Okay, so truth be told, there was, from 7 until I was about 37, it was rocky with her.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
when Betty was born, when I was, I guess, 39, turning 40, she like really, our relationship changed tenfold.
Wow.
Yes.
Because
I guess maybe because of the granddaughter.
Yeah.
because Betty brought y'all together, or because you had a bigger appreciation for her role in your life?
I think both of those things would be true.
And I can imagine when those kiddos are born, those grandchildren, I mean, there's such an immediate attachment.
The relationship
It
between
changes.
me and Topher, my ex-husband's parents, changed when we adopted our children.
Yeah.
And they became more involved in their lives. And I think there's just this mutual appreciation that comes. Like, I think they appreciate you giving them grandkids.
Yeah.
And then I think you appreciate them in a new light. Did you notice your relationship with your girls changed when they had children?
Well, my relationship with my girls has always been really good. I mean, in high school, there were times when we, didn't
feisty.
Were feisty, fighty, and but I've just never had any issues with my adult daughters. We get along really, really well, and the grandchildren. What's interesting about grandchildren is you think that your children are, and they are amazing, and how big that love is. And then all of a sudden, when grandchildren come, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, I hear that over and over and over
Because
again.
it's just so much, it's just different because you can just love them.
Yeah, you don't have to discipline.
You just are not responsible for life for them,
That's
for
the best way
future
to say it.
choices, because it wasn't just thinking about where they were going to go to college or when they were in high school and they were wild and all of that and thinking, oh, please live, whereas that's not my job. I'll still probably have those feelings, but it's not my job to navigate those things with my grandchildren. I'm I get it. I'm real involved with the kids, going to their activities, but I don't interfere with the decisions that my daughters make.
Yep.
At all.
The boundaries and the roles, the way that you know your place is phenomenal. I mean, so we did an episode a while back on that, and I think a lot of mothers and mother-in-laws, I mean, that is a big issue. I mean, I can't tell you how packed my schedule has been after all these holidays and people spending time with their in-laws and all the problems and the enmeshment and how difficult that can be, and for a lot of people.
A lot. I mean, I will.
Are you experiencing that?
No. Oh, yeah. And, what I always tell people is, first of all, I went to Al-Anon. Well, I still go to meetings some. And that, step one is I'm powerless over people, places and things, so I'm powerless over my grandchildren. I can love them to death, but I am powerless over what my adult children, how they parent. And they're all really loving and tender. I mean, nobody's being abusive.
No.
But if I've said it before, if I have a suggestion, I ask for permission before I spit it out. But it's a really fun place because you're like, okay, I don't do anything that, like, if my girls say, Mom, they can have one cookie after dinner, but not two. And if they ask me for two, I say, no, because I told your mom I'd give you just one.
Yep.
So I let them be the boss.
That's so, that is, oh, man, I wish more moms, grandmas, mother-in-laws knew how to do that.
I know. You just stay out of their way. Just mind your own business.
And think about how easy that is.
I know.
I don't want to mind your business.
No.
I want to mind my business.
Exactly.
I got enough. I got enough to mind.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
So, what out of these 4 words, being seen, being soothed, feeling secure, feeling safe, what do you think your parents were the best at?
I think that they were the best at feeling secure. I was never afraid of them leaving, or their marriage was really strong, and so I felt safe with that. But it's that security and safety, I guess, are pretty much intertwined with that. I didn't want to get in trouble because I didn't want to get a spanking. My parents spanked, and I'm glad that I really I did some, but they weren't abusive at all with that. So what about you?
What were my parents not good at, or what were they good at?
Both. Well, I think. Well, have you already said something with the not? Okay, what? Tell.
My parents, I was not seen. My parents were not happy with themselves, I think, and they were not happy with each other. And so getting outside of themselves and all their tension and problems was very difficult for them. So, and I think all of my siblings would say the same. In fact, I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my siblings over the holidays, and we talked a lot about this.
Yeah.
I don't think they were very good about making us feel safe because there was a lot of fighting and a lot of threatening to go. Like, my parents probably sat us down a dozen times and told us they were getting divorced.
Oh my gosh.
But they never got divorced. And they were, my mother was physically abusive and my dad did not protect us.
Yeah.
And so that's hard to feel safe in a place where you're being abused. And it wasn't just a little spanking. I mean, mom kind of went off the reservation sometimes, which was really scary. Safe, seen, soothed. No, I wasn't really soothed either.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We've done the work. But, and then secure, I think, no, I just think when my mom got married to my dad, she was 17. Think about that.
Yeah.
She was a baby.
Yeah.
My dad was 22, 23. So 22, 23. And she had my sister, older sister, when she was 19. She had me when she was 20. She had 4 children by the time she was 28.
Oh, wow. That was hard for her.
Oh, my. Or 29. She had 4 children. And it's not like there was a trust. I mean, my dad's working his ass off as a pharmaceutical rep, sales, and she was a stay-at-home mom. She was miserable at home. She should have, and she went to work probably when I was like 8 or 9 full time, and my mom needed to work. She was one of those kind that like was much happier, and she liked money.
Yeah.
And she made great money.
Yeah.
So my parents just weren't really equipped. And I've made peace with all of it.
Yeah.
I like you can easily say that I do believe my parents did the best they could with what they had. I mean, they were babies and their emotional intelligence was very low. And then we had all the religious abuse with Mormonism. I mean, for sure I was going to hell. For sure I was going to hell. So I was always scared of that. And I did a really good job hiding a lot of things because I couldn't be seen. If my parents knew me as I was, they would have disowned me. That's the truth. And so I hid a lot of me.
So you didn't have permission to be, you didn't have permission to show yourself at all.
No, I had to be a good Mormon girl or my parents would cut me off. And so, but I wasn't a good Mormon girl. And
they didn't know you weren't a good Mormon girl?
No.
So they weren't even watching?
No, they were not paying attention. And I just, if I obeyed the rules and played the game, then I could survive. And so that's what I did until I graduated high school or college. I survived. And
wow.
That was that.
Yeah.
And that's why for me doing that family of origin work, because I have spent a better part of my life coping with all of this fucked up shit in my past because I've never known how to be seen. I've never known how to self-soothe. I've never felt secure,
Well,
I've never felt safe.
It wasn't a value that they showed you, that you matter, so I'm going to make sure that you feel safe and secure and soothed and seen.
Yep. And so adult Tova, taking care of little Tova and doing that family of origin work so that I can be a more whole and happy and secure adult and not afraid. For years, I lived in fear. And I don't even know what I was afraid of. I was just scared.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was that little girl.
Mm-hmm. And when you are living in fear and you're afraid to get caught, I was always afraid to get caught of me. But that they would find out that I wasn't the good girl, the good Mormon girl. And when you're living like that, I felt like I didn't have any integrity.
Well, plus you feel like you have to hide from the enemy because you were afraid that if they found out, then you were really going to be in trouble.
Oh, yeah. And I think even one step further, I think I felt like I was bad. I think I thought I was bad. But then there was this like other side of me that's like, but you're not bad, you know? Like it was like I was always kind of fighting with myself, you know? And so that's why I think when I heard this podcast, I thought, God, you know, there's so many people, there's so many adults, there's so many people listening to this podcast who grew up in family systems where it just wasn't perfect, you know, who is? And nobody. And yet as adults, unless we've done the work, we're reconciling all of this pain.
Well, we're taking it into our adulthood, and it will affect our picker, and it will affect...
Explain picker, because I didn't know what that meant till you taught me.
Who I picked to be my significant other, because we'll try to replicate on some level some of our parental issues. And so it is important. It really is, and I, you know, and I'm gonna plug my book, The Shame Game, but not because I just want to sell books, but because there are distinct direction about how to heal that shame, and it's called The Shame Game. Leaving Shame to Live in Abundance. And it's on Amazon, but it really gives you a play-by-play description as to how you can become aware of these things and what to do with it.
That's so helpful. I mean, because we're not going to solve this for every individual listening to it. But I do believe the remedy for this thought process is that there is hope.
Oh,
you know? And I think creating awareness around it is a great start, because a lot of people don't even know that they're running.
Right. They don't. They think the adult self is running the show, and it really isn't.
No,
it's all those kids.
It is. It's all those little kids taking up rooms in their house.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's true. It really is.
And you can become. And the realization isn't shaming; it's empowering.
Well, I remember when I first did the work with a woman at the Meadows Treatment Center, Pia Melody. She's the one that identified all of these things. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is me. I could not. It was like somebody drew back the curtains and I had this whole new awareness. And then I was like, okay, well, I was at a workshop with her, and she was teaching me and 4 other therapists how to do the work. And I was I couldn't believe this. It was me, but it was me. And it's amazing, because once you recognize it, then you're on the path to healing. So it's worth your while, I think, for people to really look into it, to see what is causing them some dysfunction in their adult lives, even if it's internal.
Absolutely. Do you think that every single person needs to do
I think
the work?
I think everybody needs to look at it and see. Some people will have more work to do than others. But, I mean, there are no perfect parents. I mean, I paid for all 3 of my daughters to go do a workshop with a girl in Virginia, because, I mean, I was like, you know, there's the before me and the me now. And so they all went to do their work.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I think, and I think a big part of the remedy in all of this too is grace and forgiveness for our parents.
Well, it's not about forgetting. You'll never forget it.
I agree with that.
But it's for giving yourself freedom from the attachment with them. So, and I think if you're holding on to this giant resentment, then you're still attached.
Or blame. You know,
well, they did it. I mean, I did.
No, I'm talking about blaming your behavior. You're acting out on them.
Well, your acting out is a result of some of the miscues in the parenting, for the most part, probably. But once you're aware of it, it's like, oh, okay, I understand that now. They did the best they could, even if it wasn't good enough. So you let that kind of dissolve into the universe, and then once you do your own work, you're like, okay, that's all right. You know, I mean, because I've made amends to my kids. I mean, I was not a perfect mother. I didn't do this work until I was getting my divorce. You know, so my kids had already had some damage from me.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's why I paid for their therapy.
It's good. I don't know that if I could afford my children's therapy.
Well, it was expensive.
Start saving, Tom.
No doubt. Well, I guess I can just have her sit on one of these podcasts.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I paid Janice lots of money, and everybody else is getting it for free. You're welcome.
I'll take you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, T. I'll take you to dinner.
It was worth every single penny that I
you're
ever
sweet.
spent. No, it's true. It's on the other side of it, of the work is freedom.
Yeah, it is free. It is freedom.
and abundance, like you said.
It is.
And it is kind of funny how many people just don't even know they're in it.
I know.
But hopefully this will create an awakening and help somebody.
Yeah.
And if it does, we always love to hear of it. I mean, I had a girl text me this morning on Instagram. It was so sweet. I just have to read it to you. She said, Tova, the remedy is my daily therapy right now, along with all of my sisters. I can't tell you how grateful I am to you and Janice. I just absolutely love your podcast. It's changed my life for forever.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That is so precious.
I don't know this person.
Oh, thank you, whoever that is.
I know. It's.
Oh.
I mean, you just wake up and kind of see you have a message on Instagram, and then you're like, wow. Thank you.
It's worth it.
So we do love to hear from you all that this is helping, and that's why that's our payment. That's why we love to do it.
It really is.
So we hope you guys have a beautiful new year, and that you enjoy an amazing week. Tom, we're happy to have you along.
I'm happy to be here. This was great.
Good.
Until next time.
Bye. Thanks for listening.